Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here again, ready to really get into some fascinating ideas.
That's right.
And today, we're focusing on the UX design process. Now, this is the second book in a really practical series. You might remember we covered the first one, Foundations of UI UX CX, in our previous deep dive.
We did indeed a great foundation.
Exactly. And this book, the UX design process, builds right on that. It also sets the stage perfectly for the next one we'll tackle, which is UI design principles.
A neat trilogy of sorts.
It is. So if you're looking for, a way to really grasp user-centered design quickly, get those aha moments without feeling totally overwhelmed,
Then this is definitely for you.
you're in the right spot. We're
Yeah.
aiming to give you that shortcut to the core ideas.
And the UX design process really does act as that bridge, doesn't it, between the theory and, well, actually doing it.
Yeah.
It takes those foundational ideas we talked about last time and lays out a pretty tangible roadmap for creating things people can actually use and hopefully enjoy using.
So the plan today is to pull out the main steps, the key insights.
Right. So you can see how putting users front and center really changes the game, how you design, how you build. It's quite fundamental.
Okay, let's dig in then. Chapter 1. The book kicks off with a really strong point. Successful products don't just spring from a cool feature list.
No, absolutely not. They come from understanding the people who use them.
People first.
People first. The book hammers home that empathy is the starting block. And it's not just, feeling sorry for someone struggling with a bad interface.
Right, it's deeper than that.
Much deeper.
Yeah.
It's a conscious effort. You need to understand their feelings, yes, but also their thoughts, what drives them, the situation they're in when they interact with your product.
The book uses a gift analogy, which I liked.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Like, how could you possibly pick the perfect gift if you didn't know the person?
Yeah.
Their tastes, their needs, you'd just be guessing.
And probably guessing wrong. So empathy isn't just a nice to have.
Not at all. It's mission critical for effective design. By really getting your users, you stop creating stuff that's irrelevant or confusing or just misses the mark entirely.
It fuels user-centered design, as the book puts it.
Precisely. And the how for building that empathy. That's user research. It's a systematic process, not just random chats. You gather insights about your target users, what they need, how they behave, their context.
And early on, what's the main goal of that research?
At the start, it's about identifying who those target users actually are, understanding their needs, their goals, what motivates them, what frustrates them, their pain points, and learning about how they do things now, their current workflows, and the environment they're in when they might use your product.
So it's all about ditching assumptions.
Exactly. Grounding everything in real human needs, not just what we think they need. And the book talks about different ways to do this research.
It does, yeah. It breaks it down into two main types.
Okay.
First, there's qualitative research. This is all about the why, right?
Yeah.
Understanding feelings, opinions, motivations.
Mm-hmm. The deeper stuff.
Yeah, through things like interviews or watching people use something, usability tests, observations. You get those rich, deep insights.
And the other side.
That would be quantitative research. This measures the what. What are users actually doing? It's about numbers, statistics.
So things like surveys, looking at website analytics, A/B testing different designs.
Right. That gives you the scale, the frequency of behaviors.
And the book suggests, quite rightly, that you often get the best, most complete picture when you combine both approaches. You get the what and the why.
Makes sense. Okay, so chapter 2 then moves on to translating all that research into something more tangible, personas and user journeys.
Exactly. Ways to make that research actionable for the design team.
Now, a persona, it's not a real person, is it?
No, not a specific individual. It's a fictional character, but, and this is key, a realistic one, it represents a key group within your target audience, and it's built entirely from your research findings.
So it pulls together their goals, needs, motivations.
Behaviors, pain points, absolutely. The book kind of compares it to creating a character profile for a story.
That helps visualize it.
It does. You're giving a face and a story to the data.
So why bother creating these fictional people? What's the payoff?
Oh, the payoff is huge. Personas are incredibly powerful for building and, crucially, maintaining empathy throughout the whole design process.
Oh, so?
Well, instead of talking vaguely about the user, the team can ask, would Sarah understand this? Or does this solve David's problem? It keeps everyone focused on who they're actually designing for.
Stops you designing for yourself basically.
Exactly that. It prevents that self-referential design trap, and it aligns the team. Everyone's got the same picture of the user. It guides countless design decisions.
And these aren't just quick sketches. They have specific components.
Right. A good persona usually has a fictional name, maybe a photo to make them feel more real, some relevant demographic details, if supported by research. Their main goals related to your product or service, their needs, frustrations, motivations, sometimes things like tech savviness, or even a quote that sums up their attitude.
But the critical point is they come from research, not stereotypes.
Absolutely critical. Research-based, not assumption-based.
Okay, then alongside personas, we have user journey maps. What do these show us?
A user journey map visualizes the entire process a specific persona goes through to achieve a goal using your product, or even interacting with your service. It can cover steps before they even start using it and what happens after, too.
Like a storyboard for their experience.
That's a great way to think about it, yeah. It maps out their path, step by step.
And why are these maps so useful in UX?
They let you see the whole experience from the user's viewpoint. You can pinpoint where things are working well, but more importantly, where they might be hitting roadblocks, feeling frustrated, the pain points. It helps identify opportunities for improvement.
Gives you that bigger picture.
A holistic view, yeah, all the different touch points. It can even reveal their emotional state during the process, the ups and downs.
What kind of details do you typically find on a journey map?
Well, you start with the persona, of course,
Yeah.
and the specific goal or scenario you're mapping. Then you break the journey down into phases or stages.
Okay.
And for each stage, you map out what actions are they taking, what are they thinking or questioning, how are they feeling happy, confused, annoyed, what are the specific pain points, and crucially, what are the opportunities for us to make it better.
So the persona is the who.
And the journey map is their path. They work hand in hand.
Right. Okay, so we've empathized, researched, created personas, mapped journeys.
Yeah.
We understand the user. Chapter 3 tackles the next big step, problem definition.
Yes. Taking all those insights and distilling them down to a clear, concise statement of the problem you're actually going to solve.
It sounds simple, maybe even obvious, but the book really stresses why taking the time to define the problem properly is so important.
It absolutely is, because if you don't define the right problem, you might build a brilliant solution to the wrong issue.
Wasted effort.
Completely. Defining the problem ensures you're focused on the most significant user need. It gives the design team a clear direction, like a compass. It aligns everyone, stakeholders included, on what success looks like. And it gives you something to measure against later. Did we solve this problem?
The book mentions that Einstein quote.
Yes, about spending most of the hour understanding the problem before even thinking about the solution. It really highlights the value of this stage.
So how do you get from all the research, the journeys, to a sharp problem definition?
You look for the patterns. What are the recurring themes? What are the major roadblocks stopping your personas from reaching their goals easily? Where's the real friction?
And the book gives a couple of practical ways to phrase the problem.
It does. 2 very common and useful formats. First, problem statements.
Okay.
These often follow a structure like, persona name needs a way to user's need or goal because insight, pain point, or motivation.
Can you give the example from the book?
Sure, it was something like, busy professional Sarah needs a way to quickly track her daily expenses on the go because she often forgets small cash purchases and struggles to stick to her budget. See how specific and user-focused that is?
Yeah, very clear. User, need, why, and the other method.
That's using how might we questions, or HMWs. You basically reframe the problem statement as an open-ended question to spark ideas.
So for Sarah?
You might ask, how might we help Sarah track expenses quickly and easily? Or maybe, how might we make expense tracking feel seamless for Sarah? They invite brainstorming, open up possibilities.
And a good problem definition has certain qualities.
Yes. The book points out it needs to be human-centered, focused on the user, specific enough to guide design, but broad enough not to dictate the solution up front. And again, always grounded in that user research.
It's the bridge.
Exactly. The bridge between understanding the user and designing the solution.
Okay, bridge crossed. Chapter 4 then turns to organizing everything. Information architecture, a 10A. So how does the book define this?
It calls IA the art and science of organizing and labeling content in websites, apps, whatever, so people can find what they need easily. Usability and findability are key.
The book uses analogies like a building blueprint or a library.
Yeah, those work well. A blueprint shows how rooms connect, where everything is. A library needs a system so you don't just wander aimlessly. IA does that for digital spaces. It creates structure, clarity. Think about website navigation menus, categories. That's IA in action.
And why is good IA so vital for UX?
Well, several reasons. First, findability. Can people actually locate the information or feature they're looking for? Good IA makes that possible. Second, usability. It makes the whole thing easier to navigate and use.
Reduces frustration.
Definitely. It supports navigation, guides users logically. It also reduces cognitive load. Users don't have to think so hard about where things might be because it aligns with their expectations, their mental models. All that adds up to better user satisfaction.
The chapter dives into some core IA concepts.
It does. Things like organization systems, how you group information, maybe hierarchical, like a typical sitemap, or sequential for a step-by-step process, or even a matrix, letting users slice and dice information in different ways.
And labeling.
Crucial, using clear, consistent words that users actually understand for links, buttons, headings. Then you have navigation systems, the global navigation that's always there, local navigation within sections, maybe contextual links within the content itself, and of course, search.
And aligning with mental models.
Yes, trying to structure information in a way that matches how users expect it to be organized based on their past experiences.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So IA gives us the structure. Then chapter 5 is about starting to visualize the interface with wireframes and low-fidelity prototypes. What's a wireframe, according to the book?
Think of it as a basic blueprint for a single screen or page, a skeleton.
Okay.
The focus is purely on layout, structure, where content goes, the hierarchy of information, and basic functionality. What buttons are needed, where do they go?
And what do they look like?
Super simple. Usually black and white or grayscale, just boxes, lines, maybe some placeholder text. No colors, no images, no fancy fonts. The goal isn't visual appeal.
What is the goal then?
To define where elements are placed, to visualize that information hierarchy we talked about with IA, to show the basic navigation flow. It's a foundation for discussion, easy to create and really easy to change.
Low commitment, high value early on.
Exactly. And building on wireframes, you get to low-fidelity prototypes.
What's the step up there? What do they add?
They add basic interactivity. You link those static wireframes together so you can actually click through a sequence of screens. You start to test the flow.
So you can see if the navigation actually works.
Precisely. You're testing the user flow, the core navigation paths, basic interactions. Can someone actually complete a key task? They still look rough, built from wireframes, maybe even paper sketches taped together, no visual polish.
Still focused on function over form.
Very much so. The purpose is testing that overall flow, checking if key tasks are achievable, and getting really early feedback on the process itself.
So why start so rough? Why not just make it look good from the start?
Because it's way cheaper and faster to find and fix problems at this stage. Getting feedback on simple wireframes or a basic flow means you can identify fundamental issues, things that just don't work, before you've invested hours in detailed visual design.
Makes iteration much easier.
Much easier. You can quickly try out different approaches based on feedback. And it helps communication, too. Everyone can focus on the core structure and function without getting distracted by, say, the color of a button.
It bridges that gap between the abstract plan, like IA, and the detailed design later on.
Perfectly put, ensuring the skeleton and the basic connections work before you put the skin on.
Right. Then the final chapter covered in the book, chapter 6, introduces usability heuristics. What are these?
Okay, so heuristics are basically established principles or guidelines, kind of rules of thumb for designing usable interfaces. They're not strict rules, but more like reminders based on years of research and experience about what generally works well for users.
So they're like a checklist for good design.
In a way, yeah, they help you evaluate an interface's usability beyond just your gut feeling. It's a more systematic approach.
And what's the benefit of using them? The book mentions heuristic evaluation.
Right. Doing a heuristic evaluation where you assess an interface against these principles can help you spot potential usability problems really early, even with just wireframes or prototypes.
So find problems before user testing.
It can help find many common problems, yes. It's often faster and cheaper than running full user tests, though it doesn't replace them entirely. It complements user testing. Plus, it gives the team a shared vocabulary for talking about usability issues.
The book focuses on a specific set, Jacob Nielsen's 10 heuristics.
Yes, they're probably the most widely known and used set. There are 10 of them.
Could you give us a flavor of a couple?
Sure. Number 1 is visibility of system status. Basically, keep the user informed about what's going on, like a progress bar when something's loading.
Okay, makes sense.
Another is match between system and the real world. Use language and concepts familiar to the user, not internal jargon. Then there's user control and freedom. Easy ways to undo mistakes, like an undo button or a clear back button.
Essential.
Totally. Consistency and standards make sure things look and behave consistently throughout the interface. Error prevention design things to minimize the chance of errors happening in the first place. The book goes through all 10 with good examples for each.
And how do these heuristics fit into the overall process the book outlines?
They're really valuable guidelines to keep in mind as you're designing and evaluating, especially those wireframes and early prototypes. Checking your designs against these heuristics can help you catch and fix a lot of basic usability flaws early on, building a more solid foundation.
Okay, so wrapping up our deep dive into the UX design process,
Yeah.
the big takeaway really seems to be that relentless focus on the user right from the start.
Absolutely. It all starts with understanding and empathizing with them. The book walks you through that process. The research, creating personas and journeys to make that understanding concrete, defining the right problem.
Structuring the information logically with IA, then visualizing the basics with wireframes and prototypes.
All while using principles like heuristics to guide you towards creating something genuinely usable. It really lays out that foundational pre-design work.
And this book, The UX Design Process, along with the first one, Foundations of UI UX CX, and the next one will cover UI Design Principles, they really form a great learning path.
They do, a very practical guide. And, if you found this discussion helpful and decide to check out the UX design process, the book actually encourages readers to share their experience.
Ah, yes, the call to action.
Right. Consider leaving a review and a rating on Amazon. Apparently, your feedback really helps other professionals find the book and see how it might improve their own work and productivity.
Good point. And the book also mentions a website for more resources.
Yes, www.vidolimo.com, vidolimo.com, worth checking out for more time-saving insights, as they put it.
Excellent. So that was our exploration of the UX design process, book 2 in the series. Definitely keep an ear out for our next deep dive.
Where we'll be tackling book 3, UI Design Principles. Looking forward to that one.
Me too. It'll round out this initial look at the core concepts.
And maybe a final thought for you to chew on. Think about your own work, your own projects, even just daily workflows. Where could applying even one of these simple UX ideas, like just stopping to really understand the user of that process, whoever that might be, make a surprisingly big difference?
Interesting question to ponder. Food for thought.